Good evening, it's 6:42 and time for the nation's business. I'm Chevon Campbell.
My name is Sanjay Lewis. Well, after serving 4 decades in the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the JCF, Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of crime, Fitz Bailey, is retiring. He's set to make his exit on September 8th. DCP Bailey has been one of the foremost members of the JCF for many years, with his no-nonsense demeanour, his attentiveness to detail, and his passion for justice.
The DCP is leaving behind a legacy of dedication, leadership, and extraordinary service. DCP Bailey's career has been nothing short of remarkable. Speaking recently at a graduation ceremony, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang offered special commendation to the DCP.
Fine example of an outstanding public servant who has served this country with distinction and integrity over the years. He has certainly added new dimension to the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Mr. Bailey's name will stand for a long time in the annals of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. His work in investigating gangs is of course pioneering and will lay the foundation for continued work to dismantle these characters that create havoc across many societies and many parts of our country. We want to commend Mr. Fitz Bailey, congratulate you, and look forward to working with you some more in other areas as your experience, competence, and skill will, of course, continue to be of value to Jamaica and its people.
And that's Dr. Horace Chang, the National Security Minister. DCP Bailey also received praises from Commissioner of Police Dr. Kevin Blake and the National Police College for his long and distinguished service to the JCF. DCP Bailey joins us this evening to look back at his years in the force. Good evening, DCP Bailey.
Good evening to you and your listeners.
Many persons know of you when you took on that crime portfolio, but I want you to take us back. Take us back to when it all started. What year did you start with the JCF, and at what level did you enter?
Okay, after I graduated from Prospect College in 1983, I immediately applied for the JCF, and I joined the JCF in 1984, the 6th of February, 1984. I joined as a constable, went through the training process. I was first transferred to what you call the beat and foot patrol, which was more like a plaza patrol in the street of downtown Kingston, the plazas uptown as far as Red Hills Road, Red Hills Mall, etc. And then having completed about 1 year or so at beat and foot patrol, I moved on to mobile reserve, which is, it's now specialized operation. That was more operational type policing. Spent just over 3 years there, involved in operational type policing, patrolling the hills of, like, I've been to Warwick Hill, Kingston East, those what you call volatile areas. Did some work within that space, some type of operational duties outside of the corporate area as well. Then I transitioned from there to the police fraud squad. That was 1988. I spent 19 years of my service at the fraud squad, and that's, a lot of people are not aware, that's my specialist as an investigator. I consider myself as one of the top financial investigators in Jamaica. Some of the most complex cases then I was involved in, even at the time when we had the collapse of the financial institution. I engaged in some of those investigations. And then fraud squad was merged into the organized crime OCID. So I took over the head of, as a matter of fact, I went to fraud squad as a constable, and I stayed there until I became the superintendent in charge of fraud squad. I then took over the organized crime investigation division. Then at that time, that division was at a very low. There was a controversial matter where some persons were, it is alleged, they were taken from somewhere in Duane Park I think it was 3 persons, and nobody saw them after that, and they were taken alleged by police officers, and those police officers were said to be from the organized crime division then. So when I was sent to OSED, one of the mission was to rebrand the unit. It was at the lowest, whereby, even officers tend to stay away, never wanted to be associated with that division. So I went there and I actually rebranded that unit. The unit became one of the, if you want to call it, the elite units within the JCF. I remember then Commissioner Ellington, when he had a meeting with me, I told him that I wanted OC to be the FBI of the JCF. And during my period there, like the Constabulary Financial Unit was established at FID. We had the Cybercrime Unit was established, which is now CFCD. The Communication Unit was established. The Trafficking Person Unit, that was revamped and restructured. The Copyright, the I think the Copyright Unit, that was also. So a number of things took place, and we got the entire division was polygraphed. I took lead by doing my own polygraph, and then every member had to be polygraphed to remain there. After that exercise, some people were asked to be relocated because they were not fit for the division. And that division is what you call now the Organized Crime Investigation Branch, which is a Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch. That is CTOC. Its name was changed. And so I spent from 2006 to 2012 at CTOC. Then I moved on to St. Andrew Central Division, and that was the first time I actually worked in what you call a geographic division, because all my experience was with the non-geographic division as a divisional commander for St. Andrew Central. And the record is there, people can check. It's one of the best years in terms of crime stats in St. Andrew Central. For example, in 1 year, there was a reduction in robberies, 52%, and then the following year there was also a reduction. Murder came down from, when I took over at the end of 2012, we had 79 murder that year. The following year we had 78, and then in 2014 we had just 30, I think it was 39, 37 or 39, I don't remember the exact amount. So there was a significant reduction in the violent crime, or the category 1 crime. And that was as a result of what I call partnership with a number of stakeholders, the church, a number of NGO government entities, and the citizens in a number of communities. And then I transitioned in 2015 from St. Andrew Central, spent about maybe 3 months at Era 4 headquarters, and then I was called by the then Commissioner Carl Williams, and I was told to take over the command of Clarendon. When he briefed me, and the only mandate he gave me was to go there and motivate the staff, because the staff had reached a stage where they were demotivated, and the then commander did not have what it takes to motivate them. So I went there and spent just over a year, and I got promoted to ACP, went to Era 2 for 9 months. Then I came back to CTOC, where I took command, and then one of the focus whilst I was there was on the gangs. And so we had the first major gang cases, one of the first gang cases, and that was the Euchence Wilson gang case. And then we started to focus on the gang in a very structured and strategic way, where we look at them as a group. And I think the record is there in terms of we have had some pitfalls, if I may use that, during the process, because it's a new legislation that we are trying to understand. And I think we are progressing well in terms of dealing with the gangs as an organization. And I think we have made significant inroad, and the template is there for the men and women. And I want to commend the dedication of the men and women that we have in the JCF, who have applied themselves so diligently. And even the result that we are seeing now in terms of the murder reduction, I mean, the stage was set. When you start to impact the gangs, the end result definitely will be reduction in crime. And then from there, I took over in 2018 the crime portfolio.
And DCP Bailey, let's go back though to the beginning. What was the motivation to join the JCF? And at the time when you joined the Constabulary force, did you see yourself rising to essentially the second highest position in the organization?
Well, put it this way: when I decided to join the work, I always relate this story. I saw what I considered to be police excesses. There was a young man from a neighboring community when I was a little boy, and I thought then that the police was very excessive in terms of how they treated with a situation. The young man, I think his rights was really trampled on. He was properly abused, beaten, let me use that term. And I said to myself, I'm going to join the force, and I'm going to try to see how I can minimize that level of abuse. And so that was one of my motivations. I had a passion, really, for policing as well. When I was much younger, I love accounts. I wanted to be an accountant. And when I went to school, the Prospect College, and I was exposed to sort of cadet-type training. Prospect College is a very small institution in St. Mary. I think it's just a unique and outstanding institution, which I think should be replicated in other parishes, but that's another story. So after I left Prospect, because of that exposure to what I call semi-military type training, I immediately joined. So that actually propelled me even more to join the JCF.
So it was your intention from day one to try and effect some change in what you considered to be the excesses of the force?
Excesses and the abuse. At those times, police abuse was really rampant. And I'm giving thanks to God that I joined. And in terms of abusing, I am very, 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 very keen on respecting the humanity and the dignity of the citizen. I believe we can do our job effectively and efficiently, and that's what I communicate to my team. We can do it effectively and efficiently without abusing the rights of people. And that's one of the things that I preach.
What would you say, DCP, is your greatest achievement? I know you would have done a lot, being in the force, as you say, from 1984, 83, you had said. What would be your greatest achievement to date?
It's very difficult to say, but one of the things that I find fulfillment in is when I bring closure to a case, when the team that I work with and a person has been victimized, and when I see the family, and when you look at the expression on their faces, and you can bring closure to their case, I think that is the most fulfilling moment for me. I think also the fact that I can influence my juniors in a positive way, influence them to be the best version of themselves. I think those, achievements in terms of what I have achieved being a deputy commissioner, that's good. But to me, that is, as I always say to the guys, sometimes it's not even because you have greater qualification, or sometimes you're at the right place at the right time and the offering is made and you succeed. But it's not because you're better off than anybody else. So I think how the fulfilling moments in my life is when I can see some of my subordinates and people who I've worked with fulfilling their obligation and improving on their skills and can be of greater service to the nation. I think those are, it's not about, because I never, as a matter of fact, when I joined JCF, I not even knew what the salary was. I never came in the organization. Well, you want to work, you want a job, but that was not my motivation. And during my tenure, I am not really motivated by money. Is to see a victim, and when you solve the crime and they feel satisfied, addressing the most vulnerable people in the society, and you can support them and you can assist them. When you can address the gullible, those who are gullible, and you can intervene and show them another path, those to me are some of the defining moments in my life. I mean, I can tell you some instances when just having conversation with some of the victims of crime, and when they express their satisfaction, and when they can say that the team did a job that we are proud of, those are the things that really motivate and drive me. I mean, getting promotion is good for self-actualization and satisfaction. When I joined, I wanted to just be a good servant of the public. I just wanted to serve the people with the highest level of professionalism. One of our oaths of office is about faithfulness, loyalty, truthfulness, integrity. And I think once I fulfill those requirements, that brings a sense of satisfaction. And I leave with on the 8th, and I leave with a very clean and clear conscience that I never use this organization for self-gratification or aggrandizement. I use it to serve the nation, to serve the people. I believe in the ability of Jamaica. I believe that within Jamaica, we have great capacity, and I maybe I have too much faith in the people of Jamaica. I think what I believe is, how do we galvanize the talents? How do we bring everybody together for them to understand? When I normally look at our national anthem, our motto, those are things that is always at the forefront of what I do. That Jamaica may under God increase in beauty, fellowship, and prosperity. And how do I use my ability and my skills? Because life is about servanthood, fulfillment. The Bible, I'm a Christian, the Bible talks about it's more blessed to give than to receive. And the importance of servanthood, love your neighbor as yourself, and two basic principles on which we exist, loving God and loving your neighbor. And I think if you can fulfill those two commandments and requirements, it brings a sense of satisfaction. I mean, my wife said to me when I was a younger police officer, "Are you the only police in the force?" I go to church on Sunday. I get up in the morning, Sunday morning very early. I go on operation, trying to ensure that our citizens are safe, and then I get back home, get ready, and go to church. Not many people do that, but just a commitment to service. Jamaica can be a better place, and I am convinced that we can make Jamaica better, and that's my ultimate goal when I join, to make Jamaica a better place.
And on that note, 40 years in the force, and as you said, you joined in at a time when you, as you say, saw the excesses in the police force and its treatment of the citizens of Jamaica. Now leaving it 40 years on in a few days, are you satisfied with where the JCF is now today?
I think we have come a far way. There have been significant improvement. When I joined, almost every day, you will see placard-bearing citizens demonstrating about abuses by the police. We want justice. Almost every activity of the police was faced with some form of opposition. I think I've seen the first transition over the years into what I call a very modern police force that respects the rights of citizens. I mean, we have some work to be done, but when you compare what was and what is now, we are far advanced. And I think the men and women within the JCF, they have gotten the message that citizens' rights is important, and that if we are going to execute our duty, we must respect the rights of the citizen as well as the human dignity of each citizen. So I've seen significant improvement.
And DCP Bailey, you're still young. So what's next for you?
For me, I will take a break. I'm retiring. And so I'll take a break, spend some time with my family, do a little traveling as well, and I will engage in some farming, which I never got a chance to do as I would want to. And I will do some more work within my church as well. And then I'll see what happens thereafter. I've been getting a lot of offers, not only locally but internationally. Well, I'll see what happens after. But I must say that it has been a pleasure. I am humbled by the fact that I have gotten the chance as a citizen to serve in this capacity, as a police officer, to serve the nation, to serve the people. And I have no regrets in serving, and if I were to relive my life, I would do it again. This is one of the most noble organizations that one can serve.
And finally from me, DCP, did you ever apply for the top job, the top post at the JCF? Do you regret not making it to that position? And what do you make of the current holder of that office?
What I will say is that there's a process that is normally, whenever the job comes up, there's a process that is applied. And yes, I have applied, and about 3 times. And I was interviewed but was not successful. However, Dr. Blake, very, very brilliant person, very knowledgeable, and I believe that the force is in good hand. It's just how do you galvanize the support, and the public also need to support him. I know sometimes, especially when we come from within, commissions from within tend to get a harder type of grading than persons who join from without. But we hope that he will be given the space to really manage, and he gets the level of support that is required because it's a very challenging job. I mean, when you look at the level of violence that we have in this country, it doesn't take much for us to get up one day and we see several persons being killed. So I'm just asking the public to just give him some space, give him some time. I mean, sometimes we don't give a person a little learning curve. We just want to see results immediately. And I think we are getting some good results because it started from the beginning of the year, and he has been really pushing very hard. And I have confidence that the force is in a better place, and we will see the level of progress as time goes on.
That is Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of the crime portfolio, Fitz Bailey, retiring on September 8th after 40 years of service.
May I just make one more comment?
Go ahead.
I just want to say thanks to everyone who supported me during the period. I also want to say thanks to the media, including nationwide. I see media as one of our major stakeholders in our quest to protect this nation. You play a critical role, and over the years, I have always maintained a good relationship with media personnel. That is so important. Truthfulness and be frank. One of the things that I always say to my colleagues, you must trust. The relationship with the media is very important. And whilst I have some training overseas, and I was told, when you're dealing with the media, but that level of confidence and trust is very important. I really thank the media. And if I may say about Nationwide, I remember when I was at the fraud squad, and there was a function that they put on by the Cooperative Credit Union, and I was asked to speak for about 10 minutes. It was covered by Nationwide. And I think that presentation and that coverage, that was many, many years ago, actually caused the public to, should I say, it was a defining moment for me. And that defining moment was because of your station bringing and broadcasting that conference that I spoke on. I spoke on identity theft. And it was then that the public understood then the problem of identity theft and the impact that it was having on Jamaica. And if one were to say that was when people became aware of who Fitz Bailey was. And so I want to give some credit to Nationwide for that.
DCP Bailey, we thank you for your service. Definitely one of the most impactful law enforcement officers the country has seen over the last several years. I'm not say few, several years. Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, DCP, happy birthday. I gather it's September 8th, the day before you leave. Yeah, you're a September man like myself. Happy birthday when it comes.
12 o'clock on the 7th.
Yes.
My authority as a police ends.
Okay, and you're ringing the birthday on the 8th.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir.
Have a good evening, Sir Bailey.
Okay, bye.
And we now turn over to an update on Rebuild Jamaica. As many of you remember, Hurricane Beryl has caused extensive damage across the country, resulting in massive dislocation to families and communities, especially in the southern parishes. And as chair of the Humanitarian Assistance Committee, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security has been coordinating relief efforts.
And the initiative called Rebuild Jamaica is aimed at advancing the resilient restoration of communities through the Government of Jamaica and partners. The initiative was launched by Prime Minister Andrew Holness on August 5. To this end, a series Rebuild Jamaica presentation events have been scheduled across the parishes from August 27 to September 6.
The presentations also see beneficiaries of the initiative receiving several cash grants. And to give us an update, we are going to be joined by the Minister of Labour and Social Security, Pearnel Charles Jr. Good evening, Sir Charles.
Evening, gentlemen, and evening to all of your listeners.
It's good to hear from you, Sir Charles. I understand you were out in St. Mary today as part of the Rebuild Jamaica initiative.
Well,
that's tomorrow.
We go to St. Mary tomorrow morning.
Oh, tomorrow. My apologies.
We were in St. James this morning.
St. James.
Doing the St. James and Hanover group. And then we trekked over to St. Anne for 2 o'clock, where we finished off with the St. Anne and the Trelawney batch. So it's been I'd say a hectic but a productive week. That's only today. Yesterday, we were in Portland. We had to make our way through all of the rain. And the day before, we were in St. Thomas. And that's just for this week.
So can you give me just an update so far? What has been the quantum of disbursements and how many people have benefited from those cash grants thus far?
So we've moved from 8,700 to more than 13,500 assessments, going towards 14,000. And at each of these ceremonies, we have present between 100 to 150 beneficiaries, all of who receive checks on the day that they come to their ceremony. Now, simultaneously, as we're doing these ceremonies, which we have started from August 5th, we have been setting up in some communities and in providing checks to persons who are not a part of the ceremonial process or the event. So overall, for instance, in St. Elizabeth, which is the parish that is hardest hit in terms of numbers, more than 50% of those who have been assessed have been provided with checks. In Westmoreland, more than 60%. And that's the pattern going through. So our goal is to see that we can process, validate, verify, and get checks distributed. Now, what has been causing some obstruction is that the checks cannot be printed unless we have the TRN validated. And so what we found is that in some respects, whether it is, for instance, a name like Sasha, where it is spelled S-A-S-H-A, and the TRN has it as S-H-C-H-A. Things like that. Little mistakes in the names or the TRN number have caused us some delay in terms of validation of the TRN. And so there are a number of persons who will be saying, well, listen, you came to my house, you assessed me, but not check, no print. What happened? Well, in large part, we have to re-verify a number of persons. So besides those issues, we have been moving swiftly. We have crunched what would usually take us maybe 6 to 8 months in 6 to under 6 weeks. And the team has been really working hard to make sure that we have our checks ready to distribute and that we are getting these in the hands of the persons who need it the most, in addition to saying to them that not only is the government providing checks through Rebuild Jamaica, but we're working with our partners. And for a select group of persons who are among the more vulnerable of those who have been assessed, the World Food Program is also coming in to provide an additional cash grant on top of what we are doing. And those persons will receive a text message in 2 weeks advising them how they can access it and what the amount is. And on top of all of that, as you know, we are working with other stakeholders like the Global Empowerment Mission, like Food for the Poor, and others, to not just provide cash grants or checks, but to provide support in terms of the actual execution of the repair of roofs and the rebuilding of homes. So it's a comprehensive initiative that we have to really drive resilient restoration of our communities in Jamaica.
And Minister, what has been the response thus far from those within the communities who have received this assistance?
Gratitude, determination. People who are just thankful that the government is even in a position to be able to do this. We weren't in this position before. We see persons who indicate that they need a little bit more support, but they're willing to come to us, explain, and they're patient. And in large part, I think that the Rebuild Jamaica initiative has been a significant success in driving what our Prime Minister has mandated, which is making sure that we're not just building back, but we're putting persons in a better position. So they're very grateful that we're helping them in terms of not just the money, but hurricane straps and the support to understand how to do it, and the support in terms of some of the more vulnerable getting actual groups to help to do the building. It has been, I'd say, a very challenging 2 weeks, going from St. Catherine, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, and then all that we did this week. But it has been a worthwhile 2 weeks, seeing the faces of those who we know have been impacted the most, and just them understanding that they are cared for and valued, I think has been, to me, the most instrumental thing in all of this.
Minister, two things. First, do you have a sum, as in an actual dollar figure, as to how much has been disbursed so far? And then secondary to that, do you have other initiatives planned on top of Rebuild Jamaica to assist Jamaicans beyond what has been done thus far in terms of the Hurricane Beryl relief?
So it's easy for me to give you in percentages, because every single day since we started, we've been distributing checks. So as I said to you, for most parishes, we have distributed more than half of the checks. So it would mean that we're moving towards that amount in terms of the dollar figure. based on the $1 billion being the total of what is there to be allocated.
So just over half a billion then?
Just over half of that has been printed, and most has been distributed. But again, we're constantly moving, constantly distributing. So it's difficult to tie down any specific figure for you unless I get that from the team. And I'll get an updated figure for you tomorrow.
Very well.
In terms of the additional programs, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security does this daily. So this activity that we are involved in now of providing support in terms of welfare for the most vulnerable is what we do. And so we have a raft of programs outside of Rebuild Jamaica, such as our rehabilitation grants, such as our tertiary school grants for past students, many of whom have been impacted by the hurricane, such as our topping up of the past program for August for all beneficiaries that are going back to school, such as our programs that support persons who have had impact to their homes. These are things that we do consistently and constantly. And we haven't cut those programs off because of Rebuild Jamaica. So as we focus on Rebuild Jamaica, we still do have persons that are interacting with us and who are getting support through our normal programs that provide that social security net for Jamaicans who need the support.
And as you move forward, the next steps, because there is an ever-present need for help within the country. Do you have plans to advance the Rebuild Jamaica so that it becomes a permanent initiative?
So the initial construct of Rebuild Jamaica was for it to serve as that mechanism that will be able to provide a conduit for support whenever we have these kinds of situations. It is evolving, right? And it continues to evolve because we learn, we listen, and we are also directed by the mandate that has been set down by our Prime Minister. And one of the things that he has said is, listen, we don't want to simply give people a check and they end up back in the same position. So one of the things that we may have to focus on in the Rebuild Jamaica Phase 2 is really looking on across government the design of our environments, the design of our communities, and ensuring that where, for instance, you have persons at or below sea level, those houses are elevated or moved. And where you have persons who have zinc, that we have the necessary monitoring and support to ensure that the hurricane straps are on and put on properly. And other things of that nature, just to ensure that as we talk about resilient restoration, that we are giving the tools and the support for that to be effective. And that's really what the Rebuilding of Jamaica process has entailed and what it has evolved to be, really, since we started in August 5th.
And Minister, I know the answer, but sometimes I think it begs repeating. Outside of what we have acquired through potential aid and grants from other well-to-do nations, this initiative has been funded solely through GOJ money and GOJ mitigation funds, correct?
For the first time ever. And I painstakingly repeat it every time I get an opportunity at every ceremony, that Jamaica, this Jamaica that we are living in now, must never take for granted that we are in a position to provide more than $8 billion for recovery and relief in a hurricane. It's not just the $1 billion to the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. That must be seen within the context of an additional set to the Ministry of Education, an additional set to the Ministry of Health and Wellness, an additional set to the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, and all of that coming from the Government of Jamaica. Never before have we seen that level of precision and planning and management that has afforded us this opportunity to help our people restore. And I take the time so that people understand and acknowledge what we are doing and how we have come to be able to do so. We welcome the support. And so we're getting support from the World Food Program. We're getting support from the Global Empowerment Mission. We're getting support from the NGOs, but that is additional support. The main stream of support is coming to Jamaica, from Jamaica, by Jamaica, because of the good decisions and the solid management of the government.
And Minister, for someone who is listening now and would like to apply to get assistance through this program, is it too late? And if it's not too late, how can they go about doing so?
So let me be clear. Not really an application. Our social workers have gone around and they've done their own assessments of the environment. However, we do acknowledge that you may have one or two that have been missed, or one or two that when we went to the home, because of the distance and perhaps the absence of occupants, we couldn't get in there. For those persons, we have said to them, reach out to your parish office. And in large part, most have already done so. I doubt that we will find persons now who really had any damage coming to us to say, listen, we need help. Most persons have already reached out to us, whether through their parish office, through their members of parliament, through their councillors, or simply finding me on social media. You'll be amazed the amount of persons who have reached out, and we have passed their information on, and they've been assessed. But if there happens to be any one or two genuine cases, I would tell you, go to your parish office as quickly as you can, because the amount of funds are limited, it's finite, and if you do really want to be accounted for, you will need to be assessed, and that must be done at least by the end of next week.
Wonderful. Thank you as always, Minister. Please keep us updated as it relates to the program. Minister of Labour and Social Security, Pearnel Charles Jr.
Thank you very much. All the best.
All the best.